Before I talk about how amazing this lens is, I also want to talk about how long bloody overdue it is. The last time Sony made a 50mm was back in 2016, and that was an entry-level 50mm 1.8. For the past 5 years, the G Master lineup existed without a 50mm prime until now. This time, it's an f1.2. Now, though the 50 1.2 is not a focal length f-stop combination that the world of photography is unfamiliar with, Sony themselves have never previously introduced a single f1.2 lens in their lineup. So that, plus the fact that we haven't heard of a 50mm from Sony in a while, it should be quite apparent how massive of a deal this is for the E-mount ecosystem. At a glance, this milestone of a lens looks kinda like the 85 G Master, but take a closer look at the glass and it's almost like Sony's just showing off their optics at this point. The front element is concave, and the rear element is straight up aspherical. And while I wouldn't describe this as a small and lightweight lens, it does weigh significantly less than the competition, specifically Canon's RF 50mm 1.2 and Nikon's 50 1.2S lens. The G Master is 778 grams, the Canon's 950, and the Nikon, well, 50 grams over a kilo. Now, if you go ahead and compare its size against the 50mm 1.8, it looks tremendous. Not that these two lenses are remotely in the same league, however. Also, f1.2 is one full stop brighter than 1.8, but I do find it intriguing how 50mm come in such different shapes and sizes. That being said, I am convinced that for this level of performance, Sony's already tried making this as small as they possibly can. To give you an idea of said level of performance, here's wide open f1.2 in the corner. That means it gets even better in the center. You can bet this lens has some serious expectations to live up to. It's been a long wait for a 50mm G Master, and lucky for Sony, this lens ain't no Cyberpunk 2077. It is delivering spectacularly, and the wide open resolution is just getting started with things. Wide open vignetting? Barely any at all. You'll still find some hints of chromatic aberration if you go looking for it, but I would consider this incredibly well suppressed for a 50 1.2. So optical image quality, indisputably paramount, but for that image to be even worth anything, it's got to be in perfect focus, which at f1.2 is not exactly a walk in the park. See, it's not just the incredibly thin depth of field, the glass elements in an f1.2 lens are big and heavy, which is bad news if you happen to be an AF motor. When Sony was briefing us about this lens, they used the word overwhelming to describe how good the autofocus was. I thought it sounded quite exaggerated until I received the lens and have now tested it. I understand exactly what they meant by overwhelming. I think this lens could actually focus faster than I could blink. The best word that I can use to describe how fast this lens focuses is hit scan. I think testing it out on the new A1 did contribute to this, but the focus drive speed on this is the fastest of any 50mm lens I've ever used, and it feels a little physics defying because it's an f1.2. You see, even Sony can't really change how heavy the glass in an f1.2 weighs, but what they did is cram 4 focus motors in to split the load. There are 4 linear XD motors in here. The 35 GM from a while ago, that had only 2. This 50mm also doesn't breathe too much as you rack focus. This is quite an extreme demonstration since I am stopped way down, but at larger apertures it's barely anything. Impressive because this can focus quite up close. 0.4 meters close focus, which is always a little closer than I felt I could go. Now, being a 50mm 1.2, chances are if you've decided to mount this lens, it's going to be all about that bokeh. And instead of telling you about its bokeh, I think it's better if I just show you. as of filming this, I do not know how much this is going to retail for yet, but I do not imagine it to be cheap. However, to anyone considering to pay for one, it is a very, very good lens. But if you'd rather keep your money and watch more gear reviews, here's a couple.